Oklahoma is the land of second, third, and last chances. Who were the people that made it so? The Red River Institute of History, johnjdwyer.com, me, Gwen Falconer Lippert, and our signature sponsor, Atwood's Stores, present Oklahoma Gold. Together with our Will Rogers Medallion-winning author-historian John J. Dwyer, we'll stitch the golden threads of Oklahoma history. It's Oklahoma Gold. Dignifying our history through the names we learn. John J. Dwyer, what's this story? Zelia Page Breaux.
At 18, she organized the music department for Langston University, and she was supervisor of music for the Oklahoma City separate schools for 25 years. As her fame spread beyond America, she was inducted into several musical halls of fame. Step Buddy Anderson, one of her students, who played trumpet for some of America's greatest big band era orchestras, remembered her more than anyone else as having turned Oklahoma City into a musical town. So reads Oklahoma City author and community leader Anita G. Arnold's soaring introduction to the incomparable Zelia Page Breaux in Arnold's memorable book, Oklahoma City's African American Education. Now, Gwen, I know that one of the joys you and I share through this radio program and podcast, Oklahoma Gold, is that we get to find and share the stories of many of the most extraordinary Oklahomans we've never heard of.
That's so true.
And it's true today as well. Zelia Page Breaux. But that also, if I may add, that we should know these people. And many of those in our Oklahomans books, too, are the marvelous black men and women of previous generations who overcame the discouraging, often tyrannical laws of the segregated society that it took America and Oklahoma a long time to overcome. So when we talk about Zelia Page Breaux's accomplishments, we remember that she accomplished them without the benefit of elite schools for her own education, with limited financial budgets at Douglas High School, where she taught for 3 decades, without access to the major media exposure that comparable or even lesser white teachers might have had, without privy to the lavish private sector funding that many majority white schools had. But not only did she overcome those and a myriad of other Jim Crow-era handicaps with a career piled high with honors, the students she labored week after year after decade to teach and guide and inspire far surpassed her own feats. They constitute a who's who list of famous black Oklahomans across the spectrum of the arts and leadership in other fields. Let's begin with Oklahoma City native, business leader, and civil rights icon Jimmy Stewart. In John Perry's 1993 Oklahoman newspaper article, Deep Second Still Lives in Dreams, Stewart recounted his childhood involvement in a major public event that demonstrated Mrs. Breaux's influence on not just the Negro or colored community, as it was then referred to, but all of OKC. Stewart sits up a little in his seat now as he thinks back to the first Douglas High School students invited to march in the annual Downtown Boys' Day Parade, Perry wrote in the Oklahoman. Blacks had been banned from the parade before 1924. When the Oklahoma City school superintendent decided to let Douglas students march, Breaux drilled her band, and the male teachers, some of them with military backgrounds, took the rest of the boys out on the football field every day and taught them to march with precision and decorum. The parade began at Main and Broadway and traveled west, and Douglas was left to the end of the parade. Ralph Ellison was in the front, in the band. I wasn't in the band, but I was marching with them, Stewart told the Oklahoman reporter. And when we hit Main and Broadway, it was a show. People just looked out the windows, and they said, "Look out there at the Douglas High School." And the band was in step, and the boys were marching like the military. Whereas the Central High School boys, and Gwen, Central was the respected white downtown high school my own mother later attended. Well, anyhow, Jimmy Stewart recalled that, quote, the Central High School boys were going along waving at people and just talking. It was a jolly thing to them, but our boys didn't say a word. They marched just like soldiers. The Oklahoman reporter asked Jimmy Stewart how he felt marching in that parade. "Proud," he answered, "proud." Well, we'll get back to Ralph Ellison in a moment, but all Jimmy Stewart went on to do was become the first black employee of the Oklahoma Natural Gas Company, its first manager, helped pave the way as a civil rights and Oklahoma City business leader for African Americans to enter a host of fields previously barred to them, such as postal carriers. Oh yes, and he became one of the first black United States Marines after volunteering to fight for our country in World War II. In so very many ways, perhaps no one in Oklahoma history has more greatly epitomized and embodied the role of pioneer than Zelia Breaux. She came to Oklahoma Territory at age 18 in 1898, nearly a decade before statehood, when the colored Agricultural and Normal University, as it was called, in the all-black Logan County town of Langston named her father, Inman Page, a trailblazing scholar in his own right, as its first president. The elder Page and another man were the first two black graduates of Ivy League Brown University. That was Zelia's father. Zelia helped him build what became Langston University. She taught piano and instrumental music at the college, formed both a choral society and an orchestra, and drilled her students in playing Bach, Mozart, Chopin, and Liszt. She married Armaghan Breaux in 1905 as Langston grew under her father's dynamic leadership from 40 to over 600 students and from 4 to 35 faculty. She also excelled as an entrepreneur. With her partner, a Mr. Whitlow, she built and operated the famed Aldridge Theater on Northeast 2nd Street, the original Deep Deuce. But always she thought both tactically and strategically, gearing her efforts toward the long game for the young people of her community, the segregated East Side OKC black community. She not only utilized the Aldridge as a top-flight movie theater for that community, but as a public stage on which to nurture the musical talents of generations of young African Americans. After vicious political infighting among its black constituency drove her father, Inman Page, from the Langston presidency, the colored schools of Oklahoma City, their name in that day, hired him as superintendent in 1916. 2 years later, his daughter Zelia accepted the position of supervisor of music for the district. Here, her greatest work probably took place. For 3 decades, she unlocked the key to the talents of OKC's African American youth. Her other alumni included guitar great Charlie Christian, renowned blues singer Jimmy Rushing, and legendary National Book Award winner and music critic Ralph Ellison. The aforementioned Deep Deuce chronicler Anita Arnold recalled how Zelia Breaux, quote, crafted a master plan featuring a music teacher in every classroom of the elementary schools and carefully chosen curriculum designed to impact over time. It became one of the best programs in the state, Arnold continued, meaning not just lesser funded and resourced black schools, but white ones as well. Douglas High School, under her direction, became one of the best high school bands in the Southwest. And Gwen, I promised we'd return to Ralph Ellison, her student and eventually one of America's greatest novelists, for whom the Northeast Oklahoma City Library is named, and we'll do that just after the break.
Zelia Page Breaux. Now that's a name to remember. This is Oklahoma Gold. Dignifying our history by building people and the state? John J. Dwyer, tell me about Zelia Page Breaux.
Zelia Page Breaux, as we were discussing before the break, had quite an illustrious roster of alumni. Among them, nationally renowned black Oklahoma author Ralph Ellison. He remembered his OKC Douglas High School music teacher Zelia Page Breaux's instruction in harmony from 9th through 12th grade, a music appreciation program, a concert band, an orchestra, and several vocal organizations. As OKC author Anita Arnold writes, she made Ralph Ellison a captain in her band and encouraged him to pursue music further. As Ellison hitchhiked his way from Oklahoma City to Tuskegee College in Alabama, Armed with a music scholarship and the clothes on his back, he was determined to become an orchestra conductor. He arrived and enrolled in college. He soon discovered an interest in literature while working in the library. Ellison made several trips to New York City to help pay college expenses, and while there, met famous African American writers who persuaded him to write articles for local papers. His interest was further piqued, Arnold continues, when he and his brother Herbert suddenly found themselves homeless after his mother's death. To overcome the depression of his mother's death, he was encouraged by a local attorney to start writing again. According to Arnold, Ralph Ellison often attended church with his mother. When he began to write his first novel, Arnold writes, Invisible Man, he relied on the discipline and rhythm of the music he had learned in church and Breaux's music classes. Amongst his favorite authors were Emerson and the Russian Dostoevsky. Invisible Man won the Elite National Book Award in 1953. Ellison was acclaimed one of America's greatest authors, a prominent literary critic, and an educator, though he never finished college. And that's the end of Anita Arnold's quote. And then, Gwen, there was Charlie Christian, another of Zelia Page Breaux's Douglas High School music students, and one of the greatest guitar virtuosos in history. Arnold says, quote, there is a sense of the classical music that Zelia Page Breaux taught in the life of Charlie Christian. He, his father, and his brothers played light classics as they strolled through neighborhoods in the white community in his youth to supplement the family income, end quote. Charlie Christian played in OKC bands and toured up and down Middle America while still a student in Breaux's classes. Then he became a foremost member of the iconic Benny Goodman Swing Band. He rampaged through the first great solo performances on the amplified electric guitar. He made Gibson guitars famous. He catapulted Oklahoma City's African-American Deep Deuce neighborhood into even greater national fame as a musical incubator than before. He laid the foundation for the new genre of bebop, and he almost single-handedly tore the guitar out of the rhythm section of bands and orchestras and vaulted it to the front rank as a solo instrument. Now think about what that meant. Charlie Christian did all of this before passing from the scene and from this life like a white-hot comet blazing out at the age of 25. All the while, Zelia Breaux cared enough for her students to directly confront their sloth and indolence. If you didn't know the classical composer, she'd flunk you, one former student recalls. Others remember her as a difficult taskmaster, and that to be in her presence, you had better know Mozart, Beethoven, and the others. Breaux earned a master's degree in music from the prestigious Northwestern University near Chicago in 1939. Her life, lived amongst Jim Crow, segregation, and economic oppression, shines through the years as an exemplar of the good that could be done for others, even within painful and sometimes cruel constraints. She took the corpus of the musical arts passed along from the pinnacle of European creative genius, mastered it, and bequeathed it to thousands of black youngsters. With her guidance, they flavored it with their own inherited and natural gifting into something new and possessed of its own unique greatness. The enormous audience for Zelia Page Breaux's 1956 funeral included Duke Ellington and Count Basie. Basie wrote of her in his autobiography, "There were a lot of things to discourage one back then," Jimmy Stewart said before his own death. "But there were also reasons to try to do things, and we had blacks who wanted to do things. Mrs. Breaux was an inspiration to all of our young people to want to do something."
What a list of incredible people she influenced. John J. Dwyer, you have picked true Oklahoma gold.